Welcome in, everybody, to Scott's Eye on Football for this NFL Draft Preview Edition continuation. As we were with you this morning, we broke down the AFC South. We're going to go AFC West today. This is part of our series, our preview series. We're taking you division by division, so we hope that you are enjoying it. We will be back on tomorrow morning. Tomorrow afternoon, rather. Boy, days, mornings, just going by me here. Tomorrow afternoon, same time, 4 p.m., we're going to do, what are we going to do tomorrow? NFC East tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday. Friday's going to be NFC North. Monday's going to be NFC South, and Tuesday, NFC West. We're going to wrap it up for you and spend a little time Wednesday, a little different looking preview. We're here to answer your questions in the chat room. This is Scott's Eye on Football. This is the NFL Draft Edition. Hopefully you have heard the word that we're doing this preview show. Also, hope that you have gotten the word. Set your calendar, time on your clock, whatever you get messages. Go and do this for me. Costs nothing. Go to Twitch, twitch.tv/Chris Landry Football. Sign up, subscribe. Cheer us on a few bits if you can. But sign up. You'll get a message that'll let you know when we're going live on a broadcast. Do this week so that next week you're prepared. We will be providing you an extensive draft coverage. All 3 days. Break down the picks while they're doing all those silly features and talking heads just rambling about nonsense that they know very little about. I'll be breaking down the draft for you, taking you on the insides, telling people what they want to know about the prospects, about the teams, what's going on behind the scenes. We're going to have it all for you here, and we're going to provide it part of a special edition NFL Draft Special. It's going to be unique. It's going to be unvarnished. It's going to be long. Certainly, you can come in and out, but certainly it'll give you an opportunity to get a feel for the work behind the scenes and what kind of leads up to it. So, as the picks are being made, some of the scuttlebutt, as I like to say, it's like the duck gliding on the pond. Everything looks calm and easy, but underneath the little web feet are paddling hard. That's what's going on behind the scenes NFL draft-wise. So I'll have the DM capabilities. I'll have the phone, the iPad. We're going to be keeping you up to date on everything. So, and Fantasy Football 101 was the one that live. Yeah, we are, obviously, this show is a special edition. The Scott's Eye show is every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern. We're just doing special shows in addition to that this week and next week, special NFL draft show. So we're going to go back to the regular schedule following that, as well as doing the NFL draft show. That was the brainchild of Fantasy Football 101. He suggested it, and so we're doing that. All right, we're going to get into the AFC West today. We're going to take your questions, and we'll go from there. There is a lot to get to. There's a lot of rumors that's being brought out. Okay, so you hear stuff. Well, we hear that Justin Fields has a epileptic issue, and it's a problem, and it's coming out. It's not new information. It's stuff that's been out there. The fact that it's leaked to the media, it's because somebody wanted to leak it. Probably somebody that would like to see him drop to him. And that is a possibility. If he doesn't go 3, where will he go? That's where it's going to be interesting. Who's going to move up? Is he going to fall to somebody? It's going to be intriguing. A lot of stuff that you're going to hear, a lot of rumors, mostly false, to kind of throw people off the scent of what's going on. That's kind of what this time of year is all about. So as we kind of break down the draft and look at each and every team, and we're doing it by divisions. Pardon me. We take a look at, excuse me, every team and kind of the overall roster, what's happened to this point, and how we anticipate it may be affecting where they might go draft day. But let's start with the Denver Broncos, as we're going to do the NFC West this afternoon. Drew Lock, still very new to the position, played in 18 games in his 2-year NFL career, is not fared well. Bottom 3 in terms of worst passing grade. He's thrown more uncatchable passes than anybody in the league. Even short ones behind the line of scrimmage. He's really struggled. The issue is how much better can he get? How much better will he get? A valid question. I think the issue is, does Denver feel like they have something in him? And does George Payton feel like they're going to go forward with him and see what he can do? Or do they try to upgrade it with a quarterback in this draft? And I don't think that decision, like most decisions, are made in a vacuum. It depends upon what quarterback is attainable, who becomes available. I have said I would not rule out Denver, nor would I rule out Detroit as a player for the quarterback position if one of those guys that they like falls to them. Now, who is that guy? I don't know. They may jump on Trey Lance. I think Justin Fields is maybe the most intriguing guy. We'll see. Outside of quarterback, Denver's biggest need this offseason was corner. Once Kyle Fuller was released, and that was a release by the Bears, we'll get into the Bears when we get into the NFC North on Friday, was done to make room for the signing of Andy Dalton. Broncos, George and Vic Fangio jumped on him. Vic had him when he was D coordinator for the Bears, and he's a top 15, top 12, top 15 corner, outside corner. He's graded out very well. Good get for them. Good addition. I do think the Broncos are in better position now, better position with somebody that's had experience running drafts. I thought that the deity of John Elway hurt the Broncos a lot. I think certainly in recruiting Peyton Manning. Outside of that, there's not a whole lot he offered them. I thought it had to be a largely driven draft by the coaches. Thought it was hit or miss. George, we'll see how well George can do, but at least George has had some background in personnel that I think will help them. Team needs, in addition to what we've already mentioned, inside linebacker. They've wanted a stud linebacker for some time. Makes some sense at 9 to take Michael Parsons. We'll see if that's the case. And continue bringing your questions to me. I hear you and see you there. And let me just go ahead and address this because Jigs just brought it up. Does Drew Lock have enough around him to make a solid analysis? Always thought about how you say Darnold's a good quarterback with nothing around him, so he can't succeed. It is a really good point. Denver's got a better roster around Lock. Lock hadn't had enough time. I think the difference is if you go back and look at Sam Darnold, particularly early on, graded out very well, Jigstad. And he showed a lot. Drew, not so much. But to answer your question, no, he hasn't. Drew Lock needs more time. But Denver's roster is better around him, far better than Sam Darnold with the Jets. But No, Locke hadn't had enough time. However, we always talk about the importance of the quarterback position. You don't go in and say, I'm going to take a quarterback. We got Drew Lock. But it's a big if you got a high grade on one of those quarterbacks that slips at 9, you pass that up? Maybe you do. Maybe you don't. You had your bet a little bit. You still got some value in whatever quarterback that doesn't win out, some trade value, something to consider. I'm not saying that's what they should do. I'm certainly not saying that's what they will do. I'm throwing it out there, but very valid point. Appreciate you saying that. Nola Jack got a really good question, and some others, you guys join in. I'll get to them in a little bit. Center. Solid offensive line, and that's the thing. You know, Jets and the problems, protection and lack of weapons. Denver's got good backs. Denver's had some weapons to work with. That's a problem. The quarterback play's been more of a problem in Denver thus far, but we'll see. Offensive line has been pretty solid when healthy, except at center. Do not like the play at center at this point. I think I like Justin Simmons and Kareem Jackson were great. Simmons and Kareem Jackson were signed. That's a positive. It helps that position. Edge rush. Von Miller maybe one more year with Denver. Don't know. Still got football in him left. How much? Need to get more edge rush pressure. Never can have enough of those guys. And we just talked quarterback. Jury's still out on Drew Lock. They got 2 good corners in Bryce Callahan and A.J. Bowie. There's not a whole lot behind them. They signed Kyle Fuller and Ronald Darby. Will help. Kyle Fuller, we mentioned, was released so that they could sign Andy Dalton. Ronald Darby was, you remember, he was taken by the Eagles. Didn't play very well for them. But when he was healthy, he played very well for the Redskins. Justin Simmons, I think, is one of the better safeties in the league. And I don't know how much people know about Justin Simmons, how good he is, but he's blossomed into one of the best. He's gotten better throughout his 5-year career. He's got a huge contract, and I think he's deserved it. Shelby Harris has been re-signed, defensive tackle. He continues to improve each year. I thought he graded out well in 2020. He's really good against the run, and is even better as he's developing as a pass rusher. Alex Johnson, the restricted free agent linebacker, was tendered, second-round tender, come out of nowhere as an undrafted free agent. He's a talented starting linebacker. Phillip Lindsay, another guy that came out of nowhere, one of the top running backs on the market before the Broncos secured him. Tim Patrick was Drew Lock's top receiving option in 2020. Cortland Sutton's injury, I think, hurt. And to your point there, Jake's dad, where we need to pump the brakes on necessarily saying Drew Lock's the answer. And I think that's a fair point. And I think that what you like going into him, I think the Broncos obviously like Drew Lock a little bit more and had him higher graded than I did coming out. So people say you're stubborn, but when you like somebody and you put forth that effort into bringing them in, assigning them or drafting them, you're more inclined to give them more time because there's enough there that you saw that you're more committed to continuing it, as opposed to maybe if you're not as high on them, then you're more quick to cut bait. But I'm going to tell you, here's the thing that I look at Denver. I think that their roster is a lot better than people think. I think that's a good roster. I think they're a quarterback away. This is what scouting is projecting. I think the end result is going to be, while they can get Drew Lock to play better, that they won't be good enough with him to advance their cause. I think they're a really good quarterback away. I think their defense has got quality starters on all three levels. It can improve like everybody else. But here's the thing. It's not just the whether a guy's good enough or not is one thing. It's why they're not. I think Drew Scott's level of inconsistency is part of what he is, and I think there's going to be limitations there. I would not, as some people said, well, go ahead and take a Jamie Newman look. If you're in a position to take one and a Justin Fields is there, by God, you take it. If you believe in Trey Lance, take it. If you believe in Mac Jones, I think it's probably those two guys that would intrigue me. Certainly Justin Fields. And I'm very confident in saying that Justin Fields is going to be a much better quarterback and a potential difference-making quarterback. The upside of a Justin Fields is that, we're talking about a guy that could be a better version of Dak Prescott, a Deshaun Watson-esque type guy. Drew Lock's going to be an average guy, slightly above average. He's not going to elevate you. You're going to have to win enough around him. I think he's got some upsides to his game, but he's certainly not someone that I think is going to be to the level of, say, a Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he's a lesser value of that. So that's how I see it. I don't know that's how Denver sees it. An off-ball linebacker is something that is prime need for Denver. Alexander Johnson, I mentioned, is a good player, but there's a little depth behind him. And I don't think there's a long-term answer there starting at inside back. So we'll see. Offensive guard, below average rushing offense, and I do think guard play had quite a bit to do with it. 23rd in rushing grade, 22 in short yardage rushing, which is an indicator of a lot of it's their style too. But the offensive line really, out of 32 teams, are graded like 27, 28th in run blocking. Not very good. And the two primary ball carriers ranked second and third in time spent behind the line of scrimmage. Just not a lot of holes there, in essence. That's what it really means. Running back, we talked about Phillip Lindsay, good player. Not just a good story, a good player. And I think can have a situational role for you. And I think can have a bigger role from time to time. But they don't have a real answer. Melvin Gordon is likely as last season. He's going to be 28 years old with a history of injuries. I know, 28 years old. That's, old for running back in most cases, particularly one with a load of injuries. Mike Boone provides some spark off the bench, but not quite what you're looking for. I think in terms of linebacker, Micah Parsons fits a need, fits value. I think Xavier Collins, a Jamin Davis, a Nick Bolton. Xavier Collins maybe a little high, although I don't know that he's not going to be their second round, certainly. But if Denver, say, were to move down, for example, Michael Parsons, if you're comfortable with off-the-field issues, Xavier Collins is really good as well. I think Jamin Davis out of Kentucky is one of the more underrated players in this draft. Nick Bolton, all those guys make a lot of sense for them second, third round. The guard options, don't see them taking Vera Tucker at 9, but I think Wyatt Davis, Quint Miners at 40 makes some sense. Trey Smith, Aaron Banks, Deontay Brown, would be great fits for him at 71. Really good fits. And then running back, Javonte Williams at 40, maybe, probably not there. Somebody had a question about Kenneth Gainwell. Nola Jack did. And I would throw him into this category. He's kind of, I think Kenneth is a good speed guy. I think a guy that can be someone that can be a factor for you on an every down basis. Mississippi kid. He doesn't have great size or power, and I worry a little bit about him being the physical between the tackles type of guy, but he's got versatility. And the worrying about, is he the guy that who gets a bunch of carries? I think he's a guy you absolutely fit into the mix. No, he's not Najee Harris. Najee is not going to fit for everybody, though, because, people that want, if you're going to spread and throw it a bunch and you're not going to really give a Najee Harris a lot of carries, then it's really, it's not a useful player for you. Gainwell, I think, can be really good. Is the power guy size wise? No, I'm not suggesting that. So I think that's a fit. Trey Sermon is potentially a later round guy that could maybe help. Don't think Travis Etienne will be there at 40, but certainly that would be great value there. Fantasy Football 101 asks about, let's say Wayne Gallman just signed with the Niners. Is he a fit for one cut? Yes, he is. I think he's more of a one-speed guy. He's a one-cut runner that can be effective. But he's more of a one-speed guy, not tremendous bursts. But again, could give them some carries and versatility. We'll see if he can hold on and make their spot. That's also one of the things that's trickling in right now, is some of these signings are the result of looking at the draft board and saying, we're probably not going to find someone in this draft as good as Wade Gallman for where we're willing to take a back. So let's sign him. Now, if things happen and we draft somebody, we can move on from Wayne Gallman. But what this does, it allows you to not force a pick at a need spot. That's what you have to do. Identify needs, fill needs with good value in free agency so that you don't force picks in the draft. Kansas City. Obviously, a lot of changeovers on the offensive line. For all the talk about the Chiefs, for all the talk about Mahomes, and boy, you absolutely should start there with him. No doubt about that. But not enough is talked about that offensive line. And Andy is the best head coach among the head coaches at really understanding offensive line play. That's what he was. And you think about Andy and the creative play caller and the quarterbacks and all. Passing game and the spread, boy, he really understands protections, and he puts great value, and he finds certain guys. So they cut Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz. They let Joe Thuney walk onto the Pats. And they brought in Kyle Long. Now, Thuney ranked really well at left guard. They'll miss him over the past 3 years. And that was an issue. Now, Kyle Long, a really good player. He's really graded well. He's just not been healthy. And I don't think you can expect health out of him for that to change. Hope, but don't know that I would expect it. They still played very well. Even with offensive line problems last year, they've got to get through that. It won't get any easier. I think offensive tackle, we re-signed Mike Remmers. There's a dire need. They're in the dire need. Got to have an offensive tackle. Absolutely. Got to get it. Guard, with Thuney and Kyle Long, they've got two guys that can play if they're healthy. It's an upgrade. But it was pass protection weakness that was a problem, and they played around it, and they played around it well as best you could. But to me, that kind of secured their guard spot, but it's not ruled it out. Again, I still wonder about Kyle Long and his health. Now, Laurent Duvernay Tardif's return, and remember, he is a medical doctor, a real-life medical doctor in Canada that decided not to play last year in a very, very admirable, honorable decision to work on helping to deal with the COVID situation in Canada. His return certainly helps things. Linebacker, that was the biggest problem last year defensively, was that it struggled to cover the middle of the field. They need better linebacker play. Edge rushers got to be improved. Frank Clark is talented, but they got real holes there. I think they could get better at defensive tackle. Signed Jaron Reed, could get better. They signed Austin Blythe. We're going to get to that in a second at center. And then Watkins and Demarcus Robinson. They re-signed Robinson. Obviously, Sammy's moved on to Baltimore. Kyle Long. And looking at him, very talented, plug-and-play guy. He's missed 20 games in his final 2 years. So it's the availability issue with him. If he's there, they're good. Austin Blythe, he was with the Rams. Played well, graded out well for the Rams. Particularly when it comes in the run game. His pass protection has got to improve some. Michael Burton, the fullback with the Saints. Effective run blocker. Did a good job leading Kamara and Murray. He's going to have a role situationally that could help. Charvarius Ward, the corner, the restricted free agent, a young corner that was tendered a second-round tender. A lot of talent, a lot of upside. Not a great tackler, but boy, he's got some natural cover skills. The youngster there. Mike Remmers, we talked a little bit about. Remmers filled in well for Mitchell Schwartz last year, especially in pass protection. He's a guy that you would like to have as your swing tackle that can absolutely get you out of a tough situation and give you some look at the Super Bowl. Weren't in a position to deal with that, and it cost them big time. That's going to be the focus, to fix the offensive line and give them some depth. So tackle is going to be interesting to see where they go. There's not a starting left tackler on the roster right now. Okay, so there's not one. In a pinch, you have to play. You have to work around it. You have to scheme around it. That's not what you want to do for the entire season. So Rankin, certainly not. I mean, right now they would have to line up with Rankin and Thuney, Blythe, Long, and Remmers. So I'm not doing cartwheels for either one of the tackle spots. They're banking on him. Unless Prince Tega Wanago can really improve by leaps and bounds, they're in trouble, which is why they're going to have to address this and probably address it early. What can they do at 31? Who's going to be at 31? Depth at tackle. There is good offensive tackles with Tevin Jenkins, Jalen Mayfield, Liam Eichenberg. I mean, those are possibilities. Second round, Jackson Carman, James Hudson, Dylan Radness. Those would be the candidates there. Walker Little, Brady Christensen, Dan Moore would be guys more in the 94 range option for them. Center, we talked about Austin Reeder. I think he can help them. But certainly, if they can't find the tackle there, they're going to have to maybe go fix somewhere else. If the tackles are gone, then somebody else is still there. Creed Humphrey would make tons of sense there and great value there. Landon Dickerson is another guy that would fit. But there is some growing concerns by some people on the medicals with Landon Dickerson, so we shall see. I think Drake Jackson and Josh Myers and Kendrick Green down the line in the third round might be intriguing options. Outside corner, they've got a bunch of options to defend the slot. L'Jarius Sneed, the fourth-round steal, but only Charvarius Ward, Rashad Fenton are under contract. That's not sustainable to get done defensively with what they had at outside corner last year. So it puts in play at 31 a Greg Newsome, a Tyson Campbell. Who's there among the corners? I would think the corner population is going to be picked clean. Surtain and Farley and Horn definitely gone. Kelvin Joseph would be a candidate. So I mentioned Tyson Campbell. Those are the type of guys that would be there. Maybe a little higher for Stokes. We'll see what they see. Greg Newsome, a lot of people see him as a first rounder. I've got Greg a little bit lower, but certainly makes some sense. Second round, Melifanu of Syracuse. Joseph, I think, will be off the board, would be tremendous value at 63. Paul Sonadebo would be good value at 63. 94, Rodarius Williams, Israel Mukamaku, and Benjamin St. Juste would be possible candidates. And then I think free safety. They re-signed Daniel Sorensen. Look, they signed him to a 1 year, $2.4 million. It's not even starter money. So he played 40% of the Chiefs' special teams. They need more competition there. A Richie Grant, an Andre Sisco, a Javon Holland would be good values on the second round. Nazrul Dean, Caden Stearns, a Darius Washington, some other possibilities. So that's kind of my summation of the Chiefs. Certainly need help at tackle. We talked a little bit about the interior offensive line, center guard, corner, safety. Didn't really get into, but I think the right type of defensive tackle, edge rusher, linebacker are all defensive needs as well, as we've discussed. The Raiders, coverage unit has been one of the worst in the league, and yet they have tried. They've attempted to address it and have done an awful job of evaluating players in the draft, in free agency, on their roster. Very, very poor job evaluating on the defensive side. You see, Gruden handles the offensive side, and because they are weak in terms of a general manager lacking in football background, it's really hurt them. And so, and that's the way Gruden wanted it, not wanted weak guy. He wanted a guy that wasn't a real strong GM that he can control, and it's having a little bit of effect on some of their roster. They've not addressed their secondary. It's going to be an issue. They've opted to overhaul the offensive line. They traded for Trent Brown. They were sold on what he did in New England, didn't understand style, fit, scheme, coaching. They got rid of Trent Brown and Gabe Jackson and Rodney Hudson. And they've done pretty good jobs in the past protecting Derek Carr. Want the problem? Derek Carr is not the problem. It's to play around him. Is Derek Carr great? No, he is very good. Good to very good, depending on how well you play around him. Defensive tackle, they need a stud presence in the interior of their defensive line. Did sign Quentin Jefferson's, not enough. 2 linebackers, 2, not 1. They re-signed Nicholas Morrow, but Corey Littleton acquisition was a failure. We'll see. Safety. They've got to upgrade the middle of their defense. Safety's been poor. Carl Joseph, the sign. New right tackle. The corner position. How many high-end resources have they given to that spot? Corner is another huge need. In fact, probably need 2. They re-signed Richie Incognito, but they need help at guard. And they signed Nick Martin. May not be the answer at center. Edge rushing depth. Cleveland Farrell improved, but not certainly overdrafted where he was. They signed Yannick Ndakwe. Now, Ndakwe is a great name. He did not play well towards the end for the Ravens. So can they hit on that? So they've got the interior offensive line, and Ndakwe has got upside, still only 26. Now, John Brown was signed over from the Bills, a talented receiver. He was released in order to save the Bills about $8 million of cap room. Kenyon Drake, was a disappointment. Wasn't involved in much in the passing game, but a guy that I liked and think they can get more out of him. Quentin Jefferson, I hope for them, can play well inside a defensive tackle and maybe help a weak position that I alluded to. I thought he graded out well for the Seahawks last year. Solomon Thomas, I don't know that there's anything there. Speaking of the Niners, remember when there was the rumor they were moving up, and it was Mitchell Trubisky that the Niners were after, and the Bears made the move and got Trubisky, and the Niners all along wanted Solomon Thomas. Solomon Thomas was a big-time bust out of Stanford. He's still a solid run defender, but doesn't give him anything in the passing game. Bust is too strong. Let me backtrack. He's played admirably against the run, but relative to what they thought they were getting at number 3, you gotta throw out the bust word. I thought Nick Martin was a mediocre center. I don't think he's the answer long range for the Raiders. Wasn't for the Texans. Carl Joseph, he hasn't really produced. Nick Morrow played well for the Raiders while in coverage. Incognito's missed all but 2 games with an ankle injury. Hankins is a really good run stuffer. Doesn't give you anything in the passing game. So what do? Right tackle, the options at 17, Darrisaw, Jenkins, Mayfield. Later it'd be like Eichenberg, Leatherwood, Jackson Carman, James Hudson. Free safety. Need a cover 3 guy. Richie Grant would be somebody that would make some sense. Andre Sisco, Javon Holland a little bit later. Offensive guard. Long-term answer is needed. Now, Vera Tucker would make sense at 17. A Wyatt Davis or Quentin Miners in the 2nd. Trey Smith in the 3rd. Aaron Banks, Deontay Brown in the 80th. They've got 2 back-to-back picks in the 3rd round. Then slot corner. They let LaMarcus Joyner walk in free agency. They just got Nevin Losser as a top option. They maybe Trevor Morick, as they run more cover 3, makes some sense for him at 17. Asante Samuel, Aaron Robinson, Elijah Molden are other examples. The Chargers did precisely what they need in free agency, attacking the offensive line. It's likely their only one starter. Brian Balaga at right tackle will return from last year's squad. They went out and signed Corey Lindsey, posted the higher grade of anyone. Matt Filer was at it and kicked inside the left guard. So there's still a lot of work there to be done. Folks, I hate to do this. I need to take this call. If you would pardon me, and this is a little bit of a practice for the draft, I'm going to be back in a couple of minutes. I need to step away to take this. Hold on one second. We're going to finish up on the Chargers in just a smidge. I apologize. Be right back. Yeah. a little bit of practice. This may be a little bit of what it's about come next week, draft day. So apologize for that. No, that is had to take that. It is work related, draft related. Nothing that would overly interest you. So we'll get back to it. The Chargers. Is there such a thing as step away music? Yeah. I wish I knew how to do that. Now, that's a job for somebody. Figure that out. Where Chris lives, Doobie Brothers. I don't know what that is. I'm not a music guy, so I'm the worst guy to deal with music. I'm gonna put one of you guys in charge of the music here and figure out how to put it on. So we're talking about the Chargers and the issues attacking the offensive line. Brian Bulaga at right tackle. This was not a good unit. They went out and signed Corey Linsley. They signed Matt Filer, who's very versatile, but not an elite player. But I think he's got some ability that can be a good pass protector inside at guard, at left guard. We'll see, though, where they may go. Certainly getting one early, you got to protect your franchise. I think that if I were to say the best young quarterbacks, guys that are in the early stages, that have the most potential, it would be Mahomes, certainly. I think Josh Allen of Buffalo, and I think Justin Herbert's in that group. I do think Joe Burrow has a chance to be pretty good, but I think these guys are stars. And I think the guy that probably people don't talk enough about is Justin Herbert. I think this guy, you've got to, the new head coach, new leadership there, I think you got to figure out how to protect him. They got a huge hole at left tackle, and they got to be addressed. Center, another big hole. I think Corey Lindsey helps, but long-term, got to figure that out. Guards, I mean, it's doing this and playing as well as he did with the problems on the offensive line were issues. Turner was cut after he got hurt. Forrest Lamp struggled, but Filer and Abuche are veteran guys that, again, were good moves to kind of plug in a need, but they got to get younger guys. Defensively, need a corner, need an edge rusher. Melvin Ingram, when he's healthy, is big time, but he's had injuries. Nwasu, across from Bosa, got some really good talent there. Some depth there would help. Find a back that can complement Austin Eckler. Jared Cook is an interesting signing. Hunter Henry, staying healthy has been an issue. Jared Cook has been inconsistent. So I think those are some of the issues. Filer, again, a little note on him was, obviously signed from the Steelers, but they missed him when the Steelers down the stretch had injuries. They really missed him a lot. Jared Cook, Jared Cook is Jared Cook now. I mean, he can make plays for you, but he's woefully inconsistent. So let's talk about the offensive tackle position. With better health, Chargers could get better play out of Bulaga and find a left tackle. It's on your way. Now, Trey Pipkins is a project that I'd be willing to continue to work with, but wouldn't be comfortable going with him. So at 13, Slater, Darashaw would be good value and good picks. Later, if they choose to do that, Leatherwood, Eichenberg, Dylan Radness, got to find some value at tackle at some point. Hudson and Brown and Little and Christensen and Dan Moore are options in the third round, and they've got the 77th and the 97th overall picks in the third round. Guard. 13, I tell you, Vera Tucker would make some sense too. Certainly give you a guard, play tackle, makes a whole lot of sense. Leatherwood, Davis, as I mentioned, Miners, Trey Smith, Aaron Banks, Deontay Brown. It's kind of what I'm thinking with them at guard. Outside corner, they're missing a starter after releasing Casey Hayward. Michael Davis has got to take a leap. Chris Harris, 32 years old, still effective as a slot guy, but he's ending the final year of his contract. One of the real good corners are going to be there. So how does top corner player value stand up against the tackle? Same grade, a little bit higher. That's going to be interesting to see. Expect Surtain to be gone. Horn may be there. Farley may be there. At 47, maybe Tyson Campbell, Asante Samuel. Kelvin Joseph definitely going by 65, but at 42 would make some sense. Paulson Adebo, Benjamin St. Juste, Cameron Bynum. Those are some of the target guys at corner. And then outside receiver, you know that Keenan Allen is one of the better slots, great route runner, magic hands. Mike Williams is only in the contract with this season. And you got two former undrafted free agents fighting it out for the third receiver spot. In a vertical-based offense, they've got to get a speed guy. 13, you talk about somebody that would love Devontae Smith if he were to slip. I don't expect him to be there. Maybe that's where the second run of receivers come across. Do they concerned about the side of Elijah Moore? Do they see the role for Kadarius Toney? Or maybe that's where you see Terrence Marshall. Mention, oh, boy, that's kind of high. That's going to be real interesting because I think they're just going to be out of reach for Devontae Smith. But Devontae Smith is there. What a fit there to add to this offense. Rashad Bateman may be a possibility. Marshall, as I mentioned. Those may be options at Bateman at 47, although some people have them going higher. I think that's Dwami Brown, Tywin Wallace, Seth Williams, Nico Collins, Sage Surratt, Dwayne Estridge. Those are outside receiver candidates for them. So that's a look at the NFC West. Kansas City's obviously in good position. I think the Chargers are an up-and-coming team that I thought they were undercoached and underdeveloped, and they've got, in my opinion, not only the second-best quarterback in the division, and I think Derek Carr is good. It's another reason why Denver is going to have a problem, and this is not a knock Drew Lock hour. I don't mean it to be that. But that's the other problem you're going to have in this division. You're going to have to be dominant to beat Mahomes in Kansas City. I think the Chargers have the quarterback that can be really good and compete, just like Buffalo can. Buffalo, look what they've done in building around Josh Allen. If the Chargers can do similar things around Justin Herbert, look out. I mean, they'll have a challenge Kansas City will in their own division, and certainly for the top of the AFC. Chargers have a lot more work to do. We just alluded to the offensive line issues, the cornerback issues. But you know what? When you've got a quarterback that's as talented as they do, you can't waste it. You got to figure that out, and you got to get it going. So you got to fix that offensive line. You got to fix the corner. You also have the potential to have an unusually gifted group of pass rushers. You got a good quarterback and you got pass rushers, man, that's a good place to start. You can fill out the other pieces pretty well, but that offensive line will get that young quarterback killed. It'll negate the running game. So fix that right away. Got to add some pieces. Got to protect Justin Herbert. Got to get him another weapon. And I'm talking interior and at tackle on the offensive line. They need multiple help on the offensive line. Need another weapon. Need help at corner. So we'll see how well they do. Kansas City Chargers, look at the Raiders, should be further along than they are. They've missed more than they've hit. They've made decisions on players and free agents in the draft and have walked away real quick. That's a sign of panic. That's a sign of really doing a poor job. I'm a little concerned with overall what they're doing. So we'll see if they can hit it here. And then Denver, as I mentioned, not a bad-looking roster in their own right, but they have, again, to figure out if they're good enough at quarterback. I like some of the things that they've done on defense. I like how they're coached on that side of the ball. but they need a linebacker in the worst way. They're going to need to rebuild their pass rush. And maybe add a running back and a little more work to the offensive line. But it's a tough division to be in if you're not hitting on all cylinders. Let's get to make sure that we are got all the questions asked. Thoughts on Henry Ruggs this season? Henry's got to step it up. I don't think Henry's as good as Jalen Waddle, who's coming out in this year's draft, but Henry can run. That's another example. They were intoxicated by the speed. I don't think they've utilized him correctly. Daniel Baber's online too. Yeah. Yeah. So that's and so we'll see. Breakdown of Gainwell that you just did is safe to say that he is a B. Lacks bulk, F lacks frame, can add on speed. I think he's got enough quickness and enough speed to be a very effective runner in the open field. What I question is he's a little bit of a size deficient guy to be a between the tackles runner in a bunch of carries. But again, remember, that's why quote unquote backs are more fungible, right? Unless you're running an offense where you're going to feature a running back. Baltimore has done some of that. Pittsburgh's done some of that. We've had some other teams do that. Unless you're going to do that, that's not really what you want. You want guys that are a little bit more fungible, that can run in space, that can attack, be matchup advantages in the pass game. I think Kenneth has some good value. And as I said before, I think he can help someone in terms of the running backs and on the board. I think he's got really good value, third round. Do I like, there's a good four backs that I like better personally, but I would say that there are five guys in that third round value that I like that I think for different levels can be pretty good. And he's a guy that probably makes you miss in space and can get to the edge a little bit better than some of the other guys in that third round value. Reminder again, spread the word. I'm going to be back tomorrow. What's tomorrow? I've lost track of days and times. Today is Wednesday. Tomorrow is Thursday. That's how it works, right? Wednesday, then Thursday. I'll be back tomorrow at 4 p.m. Central Time, 5 p.m. Eastern. We're going to go over what are we going to do tomorrow. We're going to start on the NFC. We're going to do the NFC East. So we're going to get that done tomorrow. We're going to get the NFC North done on Friday. And then obviously remind, in same time, same channel, and remind you and remind everybody, spread the word about the draft shows Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of next week. Check out LandryFootball.com. All the breakdowns, the draft boards, the scouting reports, the inside the film room analysis of all of these teams. We're giving you just a little thumbnail sketch as we can here. Appreciate your patience. Didn't anticipate that we'd have to step away. Thought I'd have to save that a little bit more for the draft show, but appreciate having to your patience to do that. And that'll be a little bit how it goes. Hopefully I won't have to step away too much. There may be a couple of times. What I'm hoping that it will allow me to do is to be able to do some of the tech stuff to where I won't go, but I may have to be quiet a little while I concentrate on sending a text. Wouldn't want to hit something that is not quite ready to go. We appreciate you coming and joining us, and we think that's going to be a whole lot of fun next week when the draft gets started. So spread the word, would you, about what we're doing. Tomorrow, Thursday, we'll be back at 4 p.m. Central. But remember, I have the Landry Football Podcast at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. So we'll join you for that. We'll join you tomorrow afternoon at 4 p.m. Central for this edition, Scout's Eye on Football, the NFC East edition. Hope you have a great evening, great rest of your day, and I appreciate you being a part of what we're doing here. Spread the word. See you over at LandryFootball.com. So long, everybody.